Boom. Welcome to episode 6. Are we seriously only at 6?
I know, right?
It's so weird. Of the Game Surgeons podcast, the podcast series where we dissect video game mechanics and the ways that they interact and intersect with both each other and with the narrative being told. I am Kyle, and I am with Shane today.
Ahoy hoy.
What have you been playing, Shane?
I've been playing Banjo-Kazooie for the first time in about 15 years.
Like the original?
Yeah, the original.
Like
the original.
Rare Replay original?
Yeah, so like the Xbox version, which is the like superior version. It's pretty much just the same. It's just they've cleaned it up a bit.
I never thought I'd hear the day when you would say the Xbox version,
Yeah.
you know, the superior version,
Well,
especially about something that was released on Nintendo to begin with.
Well, it's really funny because I didn't even like think about this, but Banjo-Kazooie is going to be released on the Nintendo Online system thing sometime this month.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And like that Nintendo 64 emulator is really bad. So, So people are like excited about playing Banjo-Kazooie, and I didn't even think about this. I was like, oh, I'm just going to go play it on Rare Replay. And it was awesome. So I like 100%ed it. It took like 10 hours, but I remembered like so much of it still.
God, I cannot imagine 100%ing a 3D platformer anymore.
Dude, it's like, it is my jam. 3D platformers are my jam. And I'm one of those guys that have to collect everything. I got to get that 100%.
Well, I mean, if 3D platformers are your jam, then you'd be very interested in the game we're covering this week.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a very different type of it's a bit of a different type of game. But before we get into that, what have you been playing?
So the game that we're covering this week, I did actually play that this afternoon. I didn't intend to. I just had the urge, like the actual urge to play, not even the responsibility. I'm just like, yeah, I really want to play it.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
And it probably takes less than 10 hours to finish as well.
I think like a grand total of 3,
if
maybe.
that.
And that was with me doing some pausing and all of that sort of extra curricular things. So yeah. Other than that, I think I started up Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions.
Nice.
For PSP. By started up, I mean I literally have done one battle.
Starting up.
It is hard to find time to do that when you're in the middle of moving house. So yeah. I shouldn't have played Journey today. Let's put it that way.
It's relaxing. It'll calm you down.
Yeah, and that was the thought process. Is like, it's been a very stressful week. I think I need to like just chill, and it was really nice. Yeah,
that was beautiful.
Anything else for you?
Oh man, I'm always playing like lots of different things here and there. I've almost finished Resident Evil up to last Resident Evil 7. That is up to last little stretch. But yeah, Banjo's been the one because my boys have been I know they've been really excited to watch it, and they always want me to play it. So they'll be like, "Oh, Daddy played Banjo-Kazooie," and I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I played like all of it from start to finish with them watching.
Nice. I guess like, how did they know about Banjo? Was it from Smash? Or?
I think so. I think it'd be from Smash, but yeah, they would have. He's like front and center on the Rare Replay icon. And yeah, I don't know. I think that Isaiah's my eldest boy. I think he's watched like boss fights on YouTube or something.
Okay, but, just quickly, and I'll edit this out. Do you want me to edit out his name?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, that's fine. Yeah, so I know they've been really excited about it, and it was good because there's this section at the end of Banjo-Kazooie where there's like a quiz show, and it's all about like the game, like everything that's happened in that game, and
like the Gruntilda.
Yeah, that
quiz
one.
show. Yeah.
And it was really helpful having Isaiah there because I'm just like, oh, what's the answer to this one? And he was usually pretty good at remembering it. So.
He's paying way more attention than you are.
He helped me, yeah.
You're like literally just in the mechanics, and he's like remembering every detail of the narrative.
This like speaks to my skills and lack thereof. But it's always the names. It's like, what's the name of this character? And I'd be like, I don't know. And then Isaiah's like, oh, it's Boogie Woogie the old mate. And I'm just like, oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. True.
It's really weird naming convention for a Banjo-Kazooie game. I wouldn't have guessed Old Mate.
No, not Old Mate, but Boggy Woggy is correct. That's a very Banjo one. But it's been great. It's been great to get back into that. But yeah, today we're going to be covering Journey.
And what a journey it is.
What a journey it is. So Journey, look at me, I'm just taking the hosting now. Tag team. Journey was originally released for the PS3 in March 2012. Can you believe it's been almost a decade?
It has been literally a decade.
What the heck? Yeah. When I read that, I was like, that can't be right. But
I knew. I actually thought it had been longer. I thought it released in 2011.
I could not believe it was that long. But I remember like what house I was in when I was playing
Yeah,
it. And
me
I'm like,
too.
yeah, that lines
Yeah.
up. But it was released for the originally released for the PS3 in March 2012, and later saw ports to the PS4, PC, and iOS. I didn't know there was an iOS version. What?
I
does that
imagine
look
that
like?
would have come about after Sky Children.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
Journey is developed by That Game Company,
Yeah.
which followed up Journey with a iOS game called Sky Children.
Yeah.
I imagine off the back of whatever sort of attention that they would have gotten for Sky Children, they probably ported Journey to iOS.
That makes sense.
I'm actually a little surprised that Sony let them. Like, it is... Journey was part of a 3-game exclusive contract that That Game Company had with Sony.
And for the record, the game company is called That Game Company, all one word.
Yeah. I'm not just...
We're not just saying
that forgetful.
It's not Boggy Woggy Old Mate Company. It's like it's got an actual name there.
Oh my god, can we start Boggy Woggy Old Mate Company?
Oh man, I'd love that.
All
Welcome to the Boggy Woggy podcast series.
Oh no,
I'm old, mate,
I'm out.
And I'm older, mate.
I'm out again. That Game Company has had, I think, 4 games total.
I think so.
Which means they haven't done anything since Sky Children.
No, I never played Sky Children. I know it's been like ported to the Switch and stuff, so I really should play it. But it's really odd because Journey was. I think that most people would agree that Journey is one of the all-time great indie games.
I would say that Journey is one of the all-time great games. I don't have to qualify it.
Well, there we go. So it's so odd that that follow-up game had like such a muted reception. I know that they did it on mobile, but I don't know, it just seems odd. Like there was so much love and hype and adoration for Journey, and then just no one cared about what came out next.
Yeah.
It's really odd. Journey is a bit of an interesting one to explain how it plays. It's like best described as a 3D platformer adventure game, maybe.
See, I think it lacks what adventure games have.
Yeah.
There's no risk of failure.
No,
it is
very relaxed.
literally none.
Yeah.
So I would not call it an adventure game, but yeah, you're right. It is quite hard to describe. Even platformers. Yeah, it's probably not entirely accurate.
A ton of platforming.
Yeah.
More exploration based. It's very spectacle heavy. It's very you experience it.
It's really cinematic.
Very cinematic.
Yeah. It's an experience. As I said last week, I did a whole bunch of research on some interviews that the developer has done over the last decade, and a little bit actually regarding Journey, the release of it, the development, etc., etc. Damn it, when like prefacing that sentence, I forgot entirely what the...
You went for a walk and then lost a dog.
I really did, yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's not even in one of the quotes that I've prepared, so I had the thought and now it's just gone.
It'll come back to you.
Entirely, yeah.
So kind of explaining the concept of Journey, it's very sparse narratively, but we'll talk about that in a moment.
I've just remembered
it. Here we go.
I've remembered it. So there was an interview in 2011, I believe, with PlayStation Blog, where Genova Chen, the game designer, one of the founding members of That Game Company, was
Which
talking...
One?
That Game Company,
that one.
That one.
Yeah.
He was talking about essentially what it is a game. So in the interview, he mentioned that in the early 2000s, it was a sort of debate as to whether we should be calling them games anymore or whether it should be interactive media. Personally, I think Journey does skew more on the side of the game than his other stuff. Flower, I would call an interactive media rather than a game.
Yeah, which is funny because Flower probably has more of a fail state than Journey.
Does it? I genuinely don't know.
I don't think it's like a legit game over, but yeah, I guess it's a very similar type of thing. But it's odd. It's kind of hard to like pinpoint what is a game, because a bit after Journey we had the rise of those first person exploration games like the Gone Homes and the What Remains of Edith Finch and those types of games. And it's like, is this a game or is this just an experience or what is it? And then you've got stuff like I don't know if you played it, that Matrix Unreal Engine tech demo thing that came out.
Oh no, I haven't played it. I figured watching the video that they released was going to be enough.
And I guess it's like literally in the title that it's a tech demo, but it's like, is this a game? I don't know. But I guess like at the end of the day, does it really matter?
No, and that's the thing. Like, one of the things Genova Chan has set out to do with most of his games is to evoke an emotional response. So that's the thing that I'm curious about the gameplay with regarding Journey. How does the gameplay go about evoking that emotional response? Because while most developers would probably use the narrative specifically to do that, there is next to no narrative in Journey. There is one there, but it's not overt. You have to seek it out. And on top of that, there is no spoken words at all, no dialogue in Journey. So the level design, cinematography, character design, and gameplay mechanics are the only things really that are there to actually set up an emotional journey for the player.
And it's funny, like we're gonna stumble into that word quite a lot, but I think Journey is the absolute apt name for this game, because so much of it is a journey, so much of it is an experience. And but like, as people can probably tell by listening to this, you and I have played it quite a number of times. How many times do you reckon you finished it?
Today was probably 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I'm probably at like 5 or so. And my last playthrough was like maybe a month or 2 ago. Just like fired it up and just played it in front of the boys, and they loved it. You can just do it in like 1 or 2 sittings.
Yeah,
quite a short game. But yeah, no, I think we both think it's a very fantastic game. So let's take the deep dive and get into what makes it so damn good.
Alrighty. So one of the things that I think is important to bring up with this one is that it was something of a social experiment that they wanted to try and do when developing this game.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what I mean by that?
Yeah, definitely. And just before we start that, when did you play the game for the first time?
On release.
Yeah, I was on release as well. Okay. So, like not a ton was known about the game, but people, it
was just very pretty.
It was just very pretty. And I played Flower before, and I loved Flower. So I was like, I'm in for this. But it was presented as a single player game, but it's actually a multiplayer game in like a
very soft multiplayer game.
The multiplayer isn't necessary for the experience. Like there's no like co-op puzzles or anything like that. But as you're playing, you might run into another wanderer. I think that's what they're called. The protags that you play as.
I couldn't actually find the name for them.
Yeah.
I kept thinking like Pilgrim or something like that.
Pilgrim or something.
But no, Wanderer sounds much better.
It feels
I'm going to go
right.
with that, yeah.
But yeah, you can just run into them. And initially I thought it was a bot, but then I started doing weird things and they started doing weird things back. And I'm just like, oh, that's a person. That's a person. But it's really cool because it's like you can... Although you're kind of in like a shared world and you can help each other, if you're far away enough from each other, then your worlds don't get impacted. So you can just sit there and be like, I don't want to like interact with this guy, and they can like go do the thing and they can finish the level, but they don't finish your level unless you're there with them.
Yeah.
And you can literally play the game from start to finish alongside someone.
Or never meeting someone at all.
Yeah.
But still feeling their impact a little bit, actually. So you... I haven't seen it. You won't spawn into a world where someone's half done everything already.
That's true.
But if you spawn into a world and do nothing, someone else can spawn in and then do all of the things.
Yeah.
And you can, like, if you've walked away and come back, everything could be done for you.
Well, it's fascinating. There must be... In each level, there must be a series of flags where they say like, okay, if the player has done this, then like it ticks that flag, and let's say
you can't have another person spawn in.
Yeah. So I would love to see what it looks like behind the scenes, but I think as like a system which exists throughout the entire game, I think it's very subtle and it works incredibly well. And it's really interesting to me, if someone asks like, oh, what is it about Journey? One of the first things I talk about is this type of multiplayer, just because it's so unique.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually want to talk about what Genova Chen's or that game company, I should say's intention was as well with that. So when they originally were developing the game, they always had the idea of the multiplayer. And here is a quote from Genova Chen talking again with PlayStation Blog in 2011 regarding essentially how they wanted to change what multiplayer and co-op play meant for games. So, after we eliminated the lobby concept, we had very few choices. Other players have to be able to connect at any time, not just the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And a player has to be able to finish the game by himself. If he can't find someone.
Yep.
All these technical issues came in with that one decision to get rid of the online lobby. A lot of games design co-op for co-op play only. The best game I've played this year was Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light.
Must be a quiet year.
It must have been. It's very well designed, like a designer's jewelry box, but it wouldn't work for Journey. What if the other player wasn't there? So we have to come up with other ways to make co-op more meaningful. We wanted something very primal, which forced us to make innovations. We didn't try to redefine multiplayer. We just wanted to create a more intuitive experience. If your grandma asked, "What's Journey?" I'd tell her, Journey is just like hiking. You go to hike a mountain, and there are other hikers you might meet, and if you like them, you can hike with them. And that's it.
I like that. That's a really good philosophy to take to it.
Yeah.
And it is like again, it's 2012, so like, you know, even the Dark Souls style of asymmetrical multiplayer sort of stuff, I don't really think that was
didn't
happening.
really exist yet. Yeah.
No, like it was, and if it was still very early days. So very brave, very experimental, and I haven't really seen too many games that do it, or at least not to such a successful extent.
No, absolutely. When did you first realize like it was another player? I know you were saying they were doing weird things.
Yeah.
Like what sorts of weird things are we talking
because
about?
I think I like instigated it. I was like, oh, there's someone here, and they're like, just their movements are very different from an AI movements. And I was like, I'm just going to start doing some strange things, start jumping around, like trying to jump on their head, which you can't do in the game, but I was just trying to do it. And then they started to try to like do it back to me, and you can do it like a ping thing, which we'll talk about in a bit. But
is that what you meant by ping?
Yeah. I don't know what you'd call it. And they were doing it back to me, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like way too complex for an AI. This is legit. And in subsequent playthroughs, I've like, you know, gone through with someone, and other times like ignored people and done my own thing. And it's been interesting. Actually, I've run into like someone that was just going through and trying to get all the optional collectibles. So that was interesting to watch, because I was like, I didn't even know that was there. Thanks for showing me that.
Yeah, like that's part of what I love about this is multiplayer isn't just a mechanic where another player is added. It's a mechanic where another player is helping you kind of like unknowingly sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very unique in that aspect.
No, I think it's great. You want to talk about? We talked a little bit about the minimalism before. Do we want to get back into that?
Yeah, why not? So it is a very minimalist game, and what I mean by that is, given that Sony paid for exclusivity for this game, Sony puts a lot of money from their studios into making every little attention to detail thing happen, right? In Journey, they minimized as many interactions as they could. There are only 2 buttons that do anything, and the analog sticks as well. So you have your X button to fly.
Yeah, which is pretty much a very floaty jump.
Yes, yeah, like a really long floaty jump. And you have the circle button to ping, or I called it the call.
Yeah, the call point makes more sense.
I actually didn't think about it until after I'd like written it down and called it the call already, but I think song works really well.
Because it is almost like they're singing to each other.
Yeah.
And it's fun because it's got room for like player expression, because you can like tap it, which has little do-do-do-do's. You can like hold it to make it a bit longer. There's something in between. So yeah, like I was singing with this other person. They were singing back, and sometimes I do like a little short sing and they'd give me some longs, and yeah, it was just fun. It's just a really like very open for interpretation way of communication.
Yeah. Something that I actually learned today is that the song matches the tone of what's playing if the background music.
Oh, that makes sense, because otherwise you would have to have, a little ping that's universal to make it like fit in. So yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So it's a nice little touch. It's one of the few things where it's an attention to detail thing.
Yeah.
But to give you an idea, your main character, the Wanderer, does not have arms. They don't have a face.
Yeah.
Their legs are just pointy bits, and it does not matter if it clips through the environment at all. And the environment's mostly sand anyway, so like it's going to clip through. It's just so very bare.
Very bare.
To give an idea for those art scholars out there, which I'm surely there must be one. The art style, like the color palette, the design is deliberately reminiscent of Giorgio de Chirico. I've probably butchered that name. I'm sorry. But he is a famous artist, and in gaming circles, most people would probably see his work and go, oh, that's the Ico cover. So they made a very deliberate homage in art style to that work. Very minimalist.
Yeah, and it's very distinct. And it's good because a lot of it is, well, pretty much all of it is set in the desert, but there's sections where you're like underground, and all the beautiful golds and everything are like it almost looks
underwater-ish. Yeah.
And that's very intentional with some of the shapes of some of the things you find in there. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how they've taken a desert, which is there's only so much you can do with a desert.
It's sparse.
It's
right?
sparse, but the way that they can keep like mixing that up, but still keep it minimalistic is really interesting. Because you played it more recently, you can answer this. Is there any text in the game? Like even at the start, does it say like press?
So there might be a little bit. I can't say I was paying attention to it because I've played the game before, so I don't need to actually read anything. But there may, I know a diagram comes up with the button that you're supposed to press, but I don't know whether it says what the button does or whether it just suggests that you do it.
Well, if it does, that'd be the only time there's text in the game. Everything is told through pictograms and music, and because there is a narrative that kind of like threads it all together, but it's very intentionally open for interpretation. Like a lot of it is
it is
pictures and a made up language.
It is abstract to
it's very abstract. I usually really jive with abstract stuff, but I didn't actually enjoy the narrative so much in this one. But what did you think of that? Of the narrative and their approach to it?
I kind of agree with you. I felt the murals, which is one of the collectible type things that you can find throughout the game, are a bit too opaque. You just can't quite understand what they're saying, because the murals have like moving pieces to them to suggest what changes are, but I can't say I got it all the time.
So this might be one of those cases where being ever so slightly more guided could have been a bit more beneficial.
To be perfectly honest, I don't think it's necessary. I think all of the narrative that the player needs is the narrative that they construct for themselves with other players in this game.
Do you think that the game would have benefited by taking out those bits of narrative then?
No, because I think you sort of need them to string the levels together.
And to have good, like, correct pacing. So a level, like a feeling of like, I've finished this section and I've got some downtime. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I do really respect how it's minimalistic all the way through. Like even with the narrative being told, it's very much, this is a very broad.
There are definitely words.
There are? Okay.
X for new game, circle for load game.
Okay, well, apart from the menu. Apart from the menu. Actually, at the very end of the game, after you finish it all, it actually comes up with the gamer tags of the people that you did the multiplayer with. And I think that the fact that it was so sparse up to that point and to finally put a name on the faceless face, I felt like that was really impactful.
Yeah, I had 3 people play with me today, and yes, seriously, that means there are still people playing Journey.
Yeah, I was shocked.
What the heck?
I was shocked when I played like the other month. I had someone in my game like almost straight away, and I was like, oh, okay.
So I think I had from the 2nd level, I had someone. Unfortunately, my game crashed when we got into the 3rd level, so I had to reboot.
Yeah.
I couldn't find that person again. I really tried. Then I came across someone in like in the 3rd level again, but they sort of just ran away without interacting with me at all, which is a pity because I had a really good time with the first person. And then later on, at about like the 3/4-ish mark, I found someone else. We stuck together for the entire stage until they fell off a bit.
Oh, no.
And they fell like all the way back to the beginning of the stage, and I'm I'm not jumping.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for it. Sorry, man.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Let's talk about the combat, or if I don't know if combat's the right word. It's because you can't fight things, but things can fight you.
You can't even dodge.
No, it's literally like hiding. Like that's your best response. So there's like these big. Again, it's very abstract, like almost whale shark-like things.
I don't know what they're officially called, but they remind me of the Leviathan from the Disney Atlantis movie.
Yeah, like a Leviathan type of thing is, and again, without words, they're shown as being like dangerous and they'll eat things.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. So level design leading up to where you first encounter them, like literally from the beginning of the game, there are all these shells of like dead creatures around.
Yes, that's right.
They're not really actually alive. They're sort of stone golem type things that come to life to search you out and kill you at one point in the game. But there are these ancient destroyed ones just littering the landscape of the desert for the longest time. You like will see their face every now and then, just be like, oh, that's cool, I wonder what that's for. And then you get to a point in the game in the underground where you've been following along with a cloth creature for a little while, sort of a little dolphin typey thing, and they're leading ahead of you. They call out to you, and then all of a sudden, one of these leviathans just comes up out of the sand and destroys it entirely.
So immediately you're like, this guy's bad news.
Yeah. Having played this game 7 times and knowing exactly what's going to happen, I am still like torn up by this. Every time.
That's so scary. I think it's the sound design and the way that they frame that whole scene is so good.
Because you've been like, you've not been with this specific little dolphin thing for a little while.
But it's helped you.
Yeah, you've been like around others, and they're sort of dog-like, and they call out to you, and it's like,
that's right. They chirp back, don't they?
They chirp back at you as well, and part of their mechanic, which I'll talk about later, is that you can recharge off of them too. And so it's your impulse to be near them, to go to them, right? And then when this happens, it just becomes an immediate, moment. it sticks with me.
Yeah, no, I think it's really powerful. And yeah, like you don't fight it; you have to hide from it, and it's almost like a stealth section in a way. And there's even like a point on like one of the final levels where, like quite towards the top of the mountain, where like the environment's really not good. Another one appears, and you're just like, no, I don't want this, not now. The way that they've like framed it and structured it is just beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But there's no fail state because if it gets you, it takes a bit of your scarf, which essentially means that like
you can't jump as high.
Yeah, as the game goes on, your scarf gets longer and it makes it so you can like jump higher and float further. And yeah, so that's all it takes. And as a bit of experimentation, I was like, just try to eat all my scarf, but nothing happens.
Yeah,
like,
so after it takes all of it,
you're fine.
Yeah, you're sort of blown backwards, but other than that.
It's always that hard balance of finding a way of punishing the player without it being overly punishing, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, you don't want to, you have to create something where you don't want to get caught by this enemy. But if you get caught by the enemy, you don't want it to punish the bad players, you know?
Yeah.
You don't want to make it like, oh no, this next section is going to be so much harder.
Yeah, and I will point out the third person, and I'm sorry if you happen to listen to this, but hopefully you won't know who you are. They were a bad player.
Oh, they were getting eaten a lot.
They had a very short scarf when I found them, which means they hadn't found any glyphs really throughout the game. They'd just been like running through it. And then, I watched him get attacked by these Leviathans 3 times in a row. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, dude, come to undercover. Like, I'm trying to show you. I'm glad there's no fail state, because it
wouldn't fit.
Yeah, this adventure is something like I want people to experience and to enjoy. Yeah. And I feel like if you got eaten by a Leviathan 3 times and it's game over, like, what does a game over look like for Journey?
Yeah, exactly.
It just doesn't feel right. So,
and there is like a scripted. It seems like a fail state's going to happen. There is a scripted moment right towards the end, and I think that makes it more impactful, because, you know, if these big like Leviathans killed you like 3 times and then you reach that point, it'd be less impactful, right? But if you've made it through, you know, like the game doesn't tell you can't die. So if you get, because you probably will get caught by like 1 or 2 of these Leviathans, just like, you know, just the first time going through. Oh, okay. Well. Anyways, some of us, the non-elite, will get caught like once or twice, and you'd be like, "Oh, that's what happens. This isn't good." So, like, you've got that feeling of fear, that perceived danger, I suppose.
The sound design, like, again, really evokes that fear.
Yeah.
I guess like the most mainstream way to mention it is like the Reapers from Mass Effect, the sound.
Big, scary, like, otherworldly.
It shakes you. Like, I turned the volume right up this afternoon, just because I'm like, where I'm moving, I'm probably not gonna get to play in max volume. So I was just like, let's do this. Yeah. And man, you feel the vibration in your chest, and it just literally shakes you to your actual core.
Yeah, that's it. So, and we've got to give a shout out to the music as well. The music is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, Austin Wintory, marry me, please.
What did it win?
Everything.
It won, but it like won something that like a BAFTA or something. I'm not sure. It won something that like a game has never won or never been nominated for. But I remember at the time it was like quite significant. But if any game was going to do it, it's this one. The strings, the sweeping orchestral, just the way it ebbs and flows at just the right times, and like there's a scene where you're like, where the camera kind of goes sideways and you're like surfing down almost like a slide, and you've got all these beautiful visuals in the background, and the music is just
building and building.
It is just like everything, because I'm not a spectacle gamer at all. Like, I don't play for the big graphics and the big moments. I don't care about that. But I tell you what, Journey did it so right that I was on board for this ride.
Yeah, absolutely. So the original intention with the soundtrack was actually just to have like a regular soundtrack, just songs, small loops that play over and over. Austin Wintory went out of his way after receiving the game to play without the music to make it contextual. So the music changes based on what you're doing and where you are, sort of thing.
Just like Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a pretty common thing.
It is now,
but for an indie game
which is huge.
Like, is near bankrupt, because that game company went bankrupt making this game.
Yeah, Flower didn't exactly, like, set the world on fire.
No. And they spent 3 years making it, 3 and a bit years making this, where Sony gave them 1 year.
Yeah. So, like, you can self-fund the rest of it.
Yeah, well, no, they gave them extra time and a bit of extra money. But yeah, in that last year, staff were working half salary to like get this out the door. So the fact that Austin Wintory went above and beyond with making the soundtrack for this, I'm so glad he got the acclaim that he did from this, because it is
well deserved,
just stunning.
And even in modern days, and especially back then, finding an indie game, because again, this is an indie game, it looks great, so wouldn't be remiss to think it's like a full budget one, but as an indie game to have a soundtrack like this, where it is orchestral, is very, very rare. And even like in 2022, it's very rare to find something like that.
Yeah, actually,
like from an indie at least.
Yeah, I actually can't really think of one.
No,
most of them will settle for like chip tunes.
Yeah, like chip tunes is always great. But even like indie music is great. Like indie game music is like some of the best music out there. I love it. But yeah, I think this is very special. So big shout outs to that. So that's the end of my notes. So what have you got?
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to bring attention to was something that you would see potentially in other games or from things from other developers, is a glut of extra mechanics. So in some of the interviews, Genova Chen talks about some of the mechanics that they initially experimented with. So the cloth mechanic, where you find glyphs and cloth, was originally meant to be like a sort of permanent get type thing. So the idea would be that it was a resource to find and collect, right? It's still something like that in the game, but because of the multiplayer, they didn't want to make it so that people were competing for this resource.
Yeah, true.
So they turned it into the glyphs. And that sort of got rid of the RPG mechanic of it, because you no longer needed to essentially farm for extra stats of your length of jump time, sort of thing.
And it's good because it makes like they are optional extras. Yeah. And it brings them back down to being optional extras.
Yeah, like you could literally go through the entire game without collecting a single glyph.
Yeah, easy.
And be fine.
I think on my last playthrough, I didn't see any. Like, I was pretty much mainlining it, but I don't think I saw a single glyph, because they are, they're not like...
they're semi-hidden.
Yeah, they're not like wildly hidden. They're not like, Halo skulls or anything like that. But they're like, they're off the beaten path enough that you can... Yeah, that you won't see them if you're not looking for them.
Exactly. And in addition to that, we were talking about the minimalism earlier. They originally had arms for the characters.
Okay.
And they got rid of them. And there were a couple of reasons for that. One of the reasons they quoted was that, well, if I have arms, why can't I pick up weapons?
Yeah, true.
So playtesting, like
2012 was a hell of a time, wasn't it?
Right?
Yeah.
And another thing was, well, if I have arms, if I've just missed this ledge, why didn't he catch it?
Yeah.
And
you're catching the table.
And try and climb up on top of it.
Yeah. I think that the fact they don't have arms makes sense, because it looks like they're wearing a poncho type of thing.
Yeah. From a design perspective, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I just assume that they've got their arms tucked in there, not getting blasted by the sand. So and exactly. It looks really cool. They look like cute little Christmas trees, because the way that they walk,
they cut a great silhouette.
They got a great silhouette, and they got the tiniest little feet, they're little spiky bits. They go dig dig dig. Yeah, I really like it.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the things that aren't there as limitations turn out to be some of like the best choices for how the game plays.
Yeah.
Which was something I always thought was really interesting.
Just with things like that, you can tell that this game was cooking for 3 years, that they could thoroughly go over all of these ideas and say, like, look, let's get rid of this because of X, Y, Z.
Yeah. Apparently at That Game Company, and this may be why they have such a low output, it's quite common for them to develop prototypes, not like prototypes for the game, but prototypes entirely for just mechanics, and then like scrap them or like just keep them in the background to use for something later.
Yeah.
Like essentially like game jam sessions for just That Game Company, which I thought was a really cool thing.
That's a very Nintendo approach to it.
It is, yeah.
Like, I'm thinking about one of my favorite things about Mario 3D World is the story of how they came up with some of the levels. They got a whole bunch of the developers on the team to get a whole bunch of like just ideas and just write down ideas. And then they put up all the ideas on the wall and they gave everyone sticky notes. And they're like, put sticky notes next to the ideas that you think are like really, really great. So they just like vomited all these ideas on the wall. Everyone as a crew were just like, they just had like a anonymous vote. And that's how they were like, okay, we have like 100. We have to narrow like 1,000 ideas down to 100 ideas. And then they just ran with the 100 ideas. I think that's such a cool way to do it.
That is really cool. And it means everyone gets like their say in how it's built, right? Yeah.
And because everyone can like see a mechanic and every different person will have different ideas for that mechanic, which I think is really fresh. But I really like that idea of just, you know, sometimes you just got to make stuff and just see what sticks. Like you can go in thinking I'm going to make this type of game or this type of experience. But the way that you'll get there can be like completely unexpected.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Awesome Games Done Quick was just actually on last week.
Yep. Sekiro blindfolded in 2 hours. What the hell?
I watched someone play Webbed today. It's
what's that one?
So it's a little Australian game, I'm pretty sure.
Let's go.
Yeah. it's an indie where you play as a spider, you shoot web
It is Australian.
to platform around, and for some reason you also have lasers that you can shoot out of your butt.
Yep.
Look, you need to be able to cut the web somehow.
That's game jam.
Yeah, it's just game.
How do we make them cut the lasers? How do we make them cut the webs? Oh, let's just get some lasers. Why not?
Shoots lasers at his butt. Oh yeah, of course. And it's basically a physics playground platformer. Like it's 2D.
Yeah, nice.
I can't really think of a close comparison.
That's what I love.
But the way the developer who was actually doing commentary for this speedrun described it was, we started this out as a Just Cause 2D thing. So the web was a grapple hook, he had a gun, etc. And it just kind of naturally evolved into this. He became a spider. And I'm just like, that's so good.
It's so wild.
That's so good. But yeah, like the ways people play these games I think the speedrun got it done in 17 minutes. This is like a 10-hour game.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Like
a lot of experimentation there.
Oh yeah.
And it gives me hope that maybe there is a version of Journey out there where you do have arms and therefore you do have an AK-47.
Maybe. No.
I hope so.
No. Get out.
Take this, Leviathan.
Get out of my house.
Oh, well, you've got recovering health if you hide behind walls.
No.
Do you remember 2012? Oh gosh.
Do you remember 2022?
Oh gosh.
All right. So one of the other things I wanted to draw attention to specifically was world design and level design. So were you given any directive at all in the game?
No, which is always a bit scary because I think the very first level is very open.
Yeah.
Like very, very open.
Like you start in the middle of a desert at the bottom of a sand dune. The camera points you to climb up a sand dune.
Yep.
And that's it. That's where you start. You don't have to climb that sand dune.
No.
You can go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's just where the camera's pointing you. And so that's what most players will do, right?
Yeah. It is that subtle direction about like forcing you down the closet.
And then when you get to the top of the sand dune, what you can see in the far, far distance is this big-ass mountain with a light shining out of the top of it.
Yep.
And immediately every player is going to go, I'm climb that.
I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
Like me, because I played so many platformers, the first thing I did was look behind me. I'm just like, where's the secrets? And I'm like, okay, no secrets today. Okay.
Well, there is secrets. But
there are, but they're not doing that one.
they're not that obvious.
Legit, the amount of times that like I'll play a platformer
and just walk the other direction.
I'm turning right now. I'm immediately go left. I'm like, oh, yeah, no secrets today. Or maybe like, oh yeah, there it is. There's an extra life.
Yeah. But yeah, Journey has this great way of subtly directing you to the next point of interest.
Yes, and again, no words.
No words.
Yep.
None at all. So you'll see the mountain in the distance, and then there are just these small ruins lying just at the foot of the dune that you just climbed, like the upper side of it. And you go there, and then one of these dolphin dudes
boys
is there, and they will like start bringing you along, riding the sand along to the next set of ruins, which is like just over another hill, and you can free some more of these dolphins, and they'll like just sort of join you as you wander around. But if you get close to like something that's a point of interest, they'll start skewing over there, and you just naturally follow them. And I think one of the most beautiful parts of it is the reason you follow them is because cloth things recharge your ability to jump.
Yeah, so you have a reason to follow them. Like there's a very obvious, immediate reason to follow them. Because it's like, oh, it benefits me if
just by being near them, right? And that's another genius decision is that when there is another player in the game, just being near them,
you can recover each other's scarves constantly,
like literally the entire time. I'm pretty sure you could probably cheese it to just like to just continually be like floating, which is beautiful. Like it's a dance. The two players who have no way of identifying each other just keeping each other aloft and dancing around one another. I think that's a beautiful idea and just a wonderful way to implement such an abstract thought. This game is a great example of systems all just working with each other. Like there's not a ton of systems going on, but everything has a place, and so many of them all like connect with each other. It's really, really well put together. And even as you were saying about exploration, like it's so hard to make a player explore how you want, or make a player go where you want them to go. People that play video games are really unintelligent beasts. Like, come on, we need people to tell us where to go. We need you to hold our hand. So the fact that they can do that and do it successfully just speaks volumes to like the absolute triumph of level design to make me go to the right place. Now, don't get us wrong. There are invisible walls. The desert is not infinite. You can't just go anywhere.
No, the same Minecraft.
But the invisible walls are done really diegetically. So instead of just walking up and like hitting a wall and not being able to go further, the game essentially conjures up a sandstorm that blows you back.
And it's not sudden, is it?
It builds up over time. So you feel resistance before you actually meet the wall. And it just feels so natural. And you get it straight away. You're just like, okay, I can't go that way.
The fact that it builds like immediately tells me, oh, okay, no, I've gone the wrong way.
Without just completely interrupting your experience and like knocking you on your ass and waiting for the animation to load. You can just stop and just turn around straight away.
That's one thing as brilliant as Zelda Breath of the Wild is, that's one thing which I never understood. There's invisible walls. Like you just
is there?
Yeah, you'll just hit a wall and be like, oh, okay.
Where?
On the end, like the edges of the map, like down in the bottom corner, it's like all water, which is like But like, there's even points where like you can just walk and there's just an invisible wall, and I'm like,
really?
Like, can I climb the invisible wall? No, you can't. Yeah, so I don't know. I find that one kind of odd. It's really. I always find it fascinating how games deal with the invisible wall issue. Usually, unswimmable water is that's the answer.
It's the default.
It's the go-to.
It's a little harder to find swimmable water in a desert.
Yeah, I think that would stand out a bit.
Just a little. Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that your attention is drawn away from the things that you shouldn't be doing and drawn to the ends of each of these levels in such a natural, eye-catching way, without like it holds your hand, but it doesn't pull you along.
Yeah.
Which I think is just masterfully done. Yeah. So did you ever just sit the controller down?
I did. This happened on my second playthrough, and I thought this was so great in a game where there's so few inputs, so few things you can do. If you just put the controller down for a little bit, the Wanderer will sit down, cross his little legs.
Yep, just meditates.
Be chilling
for a while.
Yeah.
The thing is, it also like starts just. It's almost like his mind wanders as well in the meditation.
And the camera kind of travels around, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just goes to different places of the level.
Yeah.
Interestingly, it is live. So
okay, so it's not a pre-rendered thing.
Yeah, so it's in engine. So if another player is there loaded in your level and they pass through one of those things,
you just see him.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So I've had that happen only the once, and it didn't happen today. But it is really a way for them to just show off their cinematography chops.
It works, and then
it's so pretty.
In the game Abzu, which wasn't done by this company, but I think the same the lead artist or something.
Oh, maybe. I know Austin Wintry worked on Abzu as well.
Yeah, I think there was some overlap with some of the stuff, but Abzu, which is the opposite, was underwater. There's different locations where you can, go to these locations, and then your character does a similar thing, sits down, and then it starts cycling through. It's a very clever way to show off. There's a trophy attached to it, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, is there?
I think meditate for 30 seconds, or dare I say, it might even be
15 minutes.
It might be meditate with someone else that's meditating, which sounds great.
Actually, I think,
but don't tie trophies and achievements to multiplayer, because that's always a bit dangerous.
See, the way I view it is that this is so cooperative. It fosters that cooperation, even though it's not necessary, so much that I think you'd find a lot of players willing to do it.
Yeah, I can just picture being the guy where I'm like, I just need one more trophy. What is it? Oh, geez, it's this, and just running around and being like, where are you? But I don't know, if you're chasing trophies and achievements in Journey, I think you're doing it wrong.
Right, exactly.
It ain't that type.
I've 100%ed it, but barely deliberately. I think I looked up the mural location.
Yeah, it's where's the mural? Where's the hidden flower? That sort of stuff.
Oh, that's right, the hidden flower.
I think I found the hidden flower by accident just because I was exploring.
I actually looked for it today and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's in a random spot.
Yeah, I could not be bothered going back after I looked it up. I'm like, I've already got the trophy. I don't actually need this.
Before.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about the call mechanic. Did you know that it also serves to speed up your powering, your recharging process?
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Enough. Okay. It's primarily if you've got a second player and you use the call next to them.
Yeah,
it will give you a decent charge.
I've done it with the second player before, and I've noticed that.
Yeah, obviously when you're near cloth creatures anyway, they'll just automatically charge you. It does call them over to you to then recharge you if you're a decent near them but not close enough to them to recharge from it. They'll hear the call and then come to you, which is really cool. And let's Let's try that again. Another thing is, if you use the call in the appropriate places, you can ride some of the creatures.
Yeah, I've seen that. You kind of like float on top of them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. And like you're decently sticky for those points too, so you don't just like float and fall off sort of thing.
The riding and the movement feels really good. Like you're a very floaty character, but when you are like sliding down sand, the way that the sand kind of like parts and everything, it just feels so good.
Right? So I actually have this as my next note. Riding the wave, sand and cloth. So yeah, sand, you surf the sand.
You do.
And it's so good.
And that section that I mentioned before where the camera like goes onto the side and like you've got a beautiful vista, like I think if you ask most people's memories of Journey, they would remember that moment. And it just says how great the feeling is of just riding on that sand. Yeah,
absolutely. I took 41 screenshots this afternoon. This afternoon, and I'm pretty sure at least 10 of them were that one bit. Admittedly, while trying to get it in a point where the Wanderer was not in shadow, because
it kind of flicks in and out.
It's just because the PS5 screenshot button slightly lags behind things. So you have to time it very well, and they all ended up sucking, unfortunately.
It's one of those games that it looks good. It looks good in stills, but in motion is where it really like shines.
Absolutely. That said, favorited a whole bunch of stills after I finished.
Hell yeah.
Just beautiful. But yeah, the cloth, you kind of ride that as well. So we've mentioned the dog dolphin type creature. There's also these sort of storms of cloth pieces.
Little ones all like shooting up.
So
like
when you use the call around them, they lift you like
they go wee.
Into the air, which is a nice cheap way of not using your jump while also getting a fair amount of airtime. There's whale type creatures, so not the leviathans, but like cloth whales. There is the like jellyfish.
Yeah, like the jellyfish.
Yeah, there's the seaweed. Sandweed, I guess. It's so good. Like it feels like a living, breathing location, and you do not see a single living thing that isn't a wanderer.
Like there's no animals. There's
like it feels like proper biomes. And like actual biodiversity, and there's not actually anything living. I don't know how they pulled it off.
And I think that adds to the like the kind of artificial like loneliness that they've created with it. How you feel very isolated. Like it is literally just you on this journey. There's the word again, to this mountain, into this light. You don't know why you're going there. There's pretty much no one on the way. If you have even like a semblance of a friend with those cloth thingies, it's going to get eaten by a leviathan, and you're going to feel betrayed. So it's all very intentional.
Absolutely. And when you get close to these things, you can ride them. Of course. There's the way where you ride the whale and ride the dolphin, but like the jellyfish, you sort of like scoot around them. I
like how they
fly up.
I like how they feel different.
Like every single one of these creatures feels magical to interact with in some way, and I am not quite sure why that is. It just is. It's so good. The glyphs we've mentioned, they don't actually matter. You can get through the game with any scarf length, with no scarf. In fact, you won't have a scarf by the end anyway. It's interesting to have a collectible that's not really necessary, that still has gameplay effect. A weird balance.
It's hard to find that balance.
Did you, when you've played, have you ever like lost a friend?
They've just gone too far.
Okay.
It's interesting when they're not on your screen. You can kind of see like a kind of glow on the edge of what direction they are to you, which I thought was a good way to do it. Because your little wanderers can like float around, zoom around a bit. But yeah, I've lost people, like people that I haven't intentionally tried to lose.
Yeah. And it's interesting that in itself is a mechanic to make you feel alone as well, to make you feel powerless because you no longer have that safety blanket of someone with you. The first person that I lost after the crash today, like, so not even like in-game lost, but my game crashed and I had no one with me. I didn't want to continue for a little while.
Yeah, you're like, that was my friend.
Yeah. I knew the Leviathans were coming up because I've played it before.
Yeah.
But like, it was just like I'd made a friend and I'd already lost them, and I was in a desert, and it just felt so alone again. And fostering that feeling just through literally losing a person. I can't imagine that in any other game.
Yeah, and again, all done without text.
Unbelievable. Like, it adds to the actual tension of being weak as well. And of course, you can't pick up weapons, so there's no fighting back against anything. But I think I want to spoil the end.
Yeah, let's talk about the ending, because I think it ties really well into the multiplayer side. Because you can be going with someone all the, like, as we said, from start to finish, and like you get towards the end, and you're really close to the top of the mountain. You know you're like really close, but it's because it's a mountain. It's like there's a big blizzard going on. And you're walking, and
the blizzard, the ice actually
it changes your clothes.
So it automatically drains your charge. And all the cloth creatures are all like falling out of the sky,
frozen and not looking healthy. You revive them and they just die again, so you can't really even use your jumping abilities in this area unless you've got a friend with you who you can stick close to, and you guys can... Still very weak.
It is very weak. In fact, your call is actually even weaker in this area too.
Again, they do a great job. Like, you don't have a health bar in this game.
No.
Not a traditional style. Like, you've got the scarf length as a stand-in, but they do all these like great visual cues and movement changes and gameplay changes to tell the story that your wanderer is suffering. And if you have someone next to you, they're suffering as well. They're going through the same thing, and they're slowing right down as well.
In some cases, they're going through worse.
Oh, that's it. That's it. And you reach this point where you're walking, and then your wanderer is just struggling, and then your wanderer just falls. And just collapses. And if you're with someone, this is really interesting. It's not like a wall that they hit and then it triggers it.
No, they can keep going for a little bit.
It's like
sometimes.
There's like a section, and then they must like have something going on behind the scenes.
I think it's related to your scarf length, because your scarf is deteriorating as you're climbing that section. That little bit there. So every time the wind blows, you see a section of your scarf blow away.
Well,
with
that makes sense.
But
I do like how it's not a canned, like you hit a trigger and then like, because if you're doing it side by side with someone, it's not like you both fall down at the same time. Because it's so heartbreaking. Because like if you're with someone and they fall before you, you're like no, and you're like trying to ping them to get them up.
And it just doesn't work.
Or the other way, if you fall down and you're just like, go on without me, come on, you can do it.
Oh gosh, and like I have collected everything before. I didn't do it today, but I've collected everything before and gone through the game again. There's no way to like
you can't
get up the mountain. But I feel it. I feel the need to like try again. Because surely if I just get one more glyph, like I can get that a little bit further.
But no, it's impossible. But it doesn't end there. You don't just die and then fade. Well, it does fade to black, but it doesn't like fully end there.
So I think this is something that I want to see in like every game. Not like this level specifically, although that would be cool too. But a gameplay mechanical reward
Yeah.
for players upon getting to the end.
Yeah.
So you've gone through the hard stuff, you've gone through the suffering, you've gotten to the end.
The lowest of the low.
The lowest of the low. Your character has literally died.
Yeah. They've and this is really intelligent. They've slowly taken away a lot of your gameplay opportunities and systems. It's just like you can't really do much.
Yeah, like you can't jump, you can't call. Like when you're climbing up that bit, you can press the call button, and I think your symbol doesn't even appear anymore because it's like your voice is that weak, right? But then after you fall, you get this vision. Narrative reasons, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't know. It's abstract.
Suddenly your Wanderer goes Super Saiyan and just launches themselves towards the peak, right?
It's almost like a death and rebirth type of thing. It's like you may have like died in the physical, but the spirit of the Wanderer is still going to continue his journey.
Exactly.
And the game throws everything at you. Like
it does. The 3 Leviathans, I think, come at you. Yeah. You just blast your way through them. Yeah.
Because you can, like, your scarf is embarrassingly long. You can like pretty much just fly, just straight up.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, every the music swells and builds after being quite minimalistic at the end. The colors, they give you new colors that you haven't really seen on the trip thus far.
Yeah.
And just like
I think
everything.
you glow gold.
Yeah, and your Wanderer like literally glows gold. They throw everything at you, everything that they can do.
It feels like the most empowering moment.
Yeah, and you're just like you're just going through the sky. You're just going crazy, and I just love how, as you said, they give you a gameplay reward because now you can pretty much fly. You can do everything that you could do before. It was taken away from you.
Yep.
So you could do so little, and then you can do everything but better.
All of it. And it takes you into another level. Some would describe it as like heaven, I guess.
And that is what makes me think that it is the story being told is that the physical died, but the spirit of the Wanderer continues.
I mean, you see your grave after.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So the Wanderer died.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you would describe it as heaven. It's among the clouds.
Yeah.
It's
very white.
Shiny. You come across things that you loved in the previous levels, like all of the dolphins, the whales, a fog that you're able to just fly through, like properly fly through, which we didn't even mention. Room that fills with water.
That kind of like water thing.
Yeah, so cool. It's actually like a fog.
Yeah,
according to the wiki. Like all of that stuff, and it's just gorgeous. And there's this snow surfing section as well. Like every single
all the callbacks
mechanic that you've like enjoyed in the lead up to this, and that has been crushed out of you in that like last 20 minutes of suffering. Bam, you get all of them, and it just feels amazing.
It does.
Yeah.
It just that roller coaster, that whiplash to be so low and then to be so high. It's just, and what a way to finish the game as well.
Absolutely.
It just finishes on such a high, such a peak. What's at the top of the mountain doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, it's all about the journey, of course. It's all about the experience and you get to the top of the mountain. Yeah.
But all that does is, in essence, reincarnate you.
Yeah, pretty much. So you can just start again if you so desire. And again, as we mentioned before, it tells you everyone that you played with up to that point. It's beautiful. It really is an emotional journey, and I think that they really hit it.
It's one of my favorite experiences. Ever.
Definitely one of the great endings in games, at least.
It's actually really weird. They didn't intend to do that to begin with.
Were they just going to let you die?
They were just going to let you die.
That'd be pretty good as well. No, legit. I think that'd be really good.
I'm so glad there's the reward there, though.
Yeah, because it is such a good experience. But I would also love if they just, none of games have like a bad ending.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. A downer ending is like
impactful.
Yeah, I think I appreciate this game so much more for like just telling me, yeah, okay, so now you're free.
Yeah,
like just hits me right in the feels.
Feels good.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, what do I take from this one? I want to say something like paring down mechanics, but that's not the type of game that I'm going for. I think probably the level design, world design, leading you through without like dragging you through. I think that's something that I like want to sort of work into my game. RPGs, it's a bit different because you are sort of given a world space rather than a level space. But I think that is something that it just means old style RPGs could have strove. I know that is definitely not right.
It's not strove.
Yeah. Have strived to do that better. And so that's something I'd like to implement, I guess.
Yeah.
Because platformers are quite good at it. Like, here's the ledge with all the bird poop on it. That's the one that you can grab, right?
Gosh.
Yeah.
I remember that moment.
Yep. Yeah, the RPG sections, RPG games haven't really like properly done that before. I think Western RPGs are better at it than JRPGs in particular. But yeah, I think that's something I would like to work towards.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, from one, is this a game, to another, is this a game? I think that there's no debate that this one is art, that Journey is art. But next time we're going to be tackling the grandfather of idle games, Cookie Clicker.
Why did I agree to this again?
So I'm a big fan of idle games, and Kyle is maybe not so versed in them. So I'm going to see if I can teach him the rewards of gamification with minimal input.
Oh, it's not even the necessarily idle games. I think it's just mobile games.
This is mobile game at its
like absolute to the extreme, right?
Acidic, demonic core.
Yeah. And like the monetization type stuff always rubs me the wrong way as well. Yeah. Ugh.
And this is going to be interesting because we're going to be doing the mobile version of Cookie Clicker, which I didn't do. I did the browser version back in 2013 or whatever.
There were different versions.
So I imagine this one's going to be far more feral. So we're gonna take a deep dive into what I assume is going to be the evils of mobile gaming. But who knows? We might even make some friends along the way.
What is this, Kingdom Hearts?
Maybe.
All right, and that's us for the afternoon, evening, morning,
midnight,
whenever you are.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for catching up with us. We'll talk to you next time.
From Boggy Woggy Old Mate Industries, signing off.